You all set? We'll bring this, excuse me, Department of Public Works, meeting to order. Must be the smoke. Excuse me. And this agenda was posted in the office of the county clerk on the 13th day of July 2026. Notice was sent to the West Bend Daily News, Express News, WIBD, WMBZ Radio, WTKM Radio, My Community Now, Hartford Times Press, Kewaskum Statesman, Milwaukee Journal, Sentinel. Everybody's here, and we'll stand up for a moment of silent prayer and pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excuse me. All right, minutes of June 18th. Everybody have a chance to review them, and anybody have any questions or comments, changes? You didn't have one? I just saw your finger go up for a second. I wasn't sure if that was a signal or not.
No.
All right, seeing none, we'll leave them as posted. Now, discussion and possible action items, 2026 resolution requiring the Canadian National Railroad to repair the rail highway crossing. Scott, you got the floor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is a report in your packet on this particular crossing. We are looking at the crossing that is in the little hamlet of Colgate, right on the county line between Washington and Waukesha County. You may recall that when we have a county line road, certain segments are designated for Washington County and certain segments are for Waukesha County. This is a segment that we are maintained by Washington County. So we actually control access on both sides of the highway. Obviously, the railroad then falls under our jurisdiction as well. And so we received complaints on this crossing last year. We put up a bump signs last year on this. We've been working with Canadian National ever since. When I say working with them, meeting on site, asking them to fix it, and saying, maybe. And then one of the last comments we received while on site was, we'll just lower the speed limit. We think that was a joke from the person, but that was the comment that we received. So we've made several more attempts to work with them to see if they would actually fix the crossing. And since we've made contact with them July 6th, again, they've been radio silent, not making contact back with us to let us know if they have a plan or not. They certainly could have a plan in place already. We're just not aware of any. And so what we have to do, the county board, if they so desire, since it is our segment of roadway, and we have, like I said, we received complaints on it. Waukesha County has received complaints on it. And so since the railroad has been non-responsive, the next step is, if you so desire, want the railroad to fix it, would be to pass the resolution. That is the next step. Other people have, and I've shared those with the county board chair and Mike, the complaints and concerns that those other citizens did file with the Office of Commissioner of Railroad too. So they have gone through it and done that. But again, the official process is we try to work with Canadian National first. If that doesn't work, then we have to go through the resolution process. Once the resolution is passed by the board, we provide that to the Office of Commissioner of Railroad and the railroad. And then hopefully that starts the clock running and then gets them to actually do the repairs out there. So if you decide not to pass this resolution, we'll continue to work with, obviously, Canadian National to see if they'll do it. But obviously, this is more of the official way that would have to be done. Also point out that generally speaking, there should be minimal to no cost to the county. I've been in this role long enough where the Canadian National will come up and say that they have no funds and can you help us with the traffic control out there on site? We can do the work, but we don't have any contract to do the traffic control. Oftentimes we do actually agree to do that because when they do the traffic control, they will literally show up at some point in the day, put barricades up at either side, and that's it. No press release, no advanced warning, nothing like that. And I think our citizens, especially with a busy road as County Highway Q is one of our more busier roads as a county highway, it's important to let people know if they're going to work in the morning, if they can't go that way, because there's not always a great detour route that's close by for that type of traffic volume. So generally speaking, we would do that. We do potentially can do some work on the road at that time. If we can coordinate with them, we can do some crack filling or other maintenance while the road is temporarily closed while they're doing the work. So that's why we like to be working with them as partners on this potentially. So that's what I have. If you had a chance to drive the route, like I said, I also have some friends that are in that area who contacted me as well. about that crossing, but I know it does cross on to the supervisor's district. It's really close to both of yours right now. So that's what I have for the committee. If you,
I know which one that is. Okay.
that's what I have. Certainly
Okay.
answer any questions that you may have on the crossing.
Anybody have any questions? If you got a question?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Schmidt. So for categorizing quality of roads, we have Pacer and PCI, right?
Yep.
One PCI, the latter is used more by industry and I think Pacer more by
Ms.
municipalities.
Pelley's correct. 100%. Yes.
I didn't see anything for railroads. I did see some CFR standards for crossing and who's responsible, et cetera. But I'm trying to understand, will this become a legal battle for us? Will they come back and say, nope, or we don't have the funds for it, or it'll be a year before we get to it? I'm just trying to understand, because I drove over it and I've experienced a lot worse crossings, including other crossings in Washington County for Canadian National. So is our intent to get them all fixed? And if that's the case, why don't we identify all of them that we need to fix and do the resolution, get them all done? I'm just trying to understand what is it that
Certainly.
we're intending to do if we have 5 constituents who've complained 50 times and that's it, those 5 constituents?
Sure.
Or is it there's a problem with Canadian National and should we hold them accountable for their crossings in Washington County?
Right. I think a couple of different things. Number one is this body will be responsible for the roadways along county highways versus a village crossing. That would be done by the village board then, because they would control the roadway. So that would be the village's responsibility. So if there's another railroad crossing in the village of Richfield, that's worse. It would be the village's responsibility to go through this process. If there was a legal battle, it'd be between the Office of Commissioner of Railroad and the Canadian National, because if it gets out there, now it goes to the Office of Commissioner of Railroad, they'll come out there and assess it. So the Office of Commissioner of Railroad will come out there and assess it and going, yes, it is bad, you need to fix it, or well, it's maybe not that bad. They can hold off on it, right? It starts that window to get somebody else to look at it. That's not me, it's not the constituents, but hopefully what I call is the professionals at the Office of Commissioner of Railroads to look at this and say, should this be done or should it not be done? We can control what we can control. I would also say that, and no offense to the village of Richfield or city of Hartford or in all wherever this rail crossing goes through, is that there are a lot of cars that use Highway Q. And so there's a difference on Highway Q, even though it's a lower speed limit, no doubt about it. But the volume of traffic that's crossing that roadway and the truck traffic that's crossing the roadway and the damage you're doing to our roadway as well, because you got to start the first bump, means when that truck comes off of there and bumps and goes up, it comes back down. And when it does come back down, and as that truck just starts, the load starts bumping. And if you ever looked at cracks in the pavement, there's a pattern to them, right? And that's caused by some of those heavy truck traffic. They hit that first bump, it creates a second one, creates a third one. So it also helps to protect our roadway out there as well. So that would be the logic behind it. But again, if this body and the board decides not to do this, we will continue to work with Canadian National going forward. But we've done all we can do as a staff, and that's why we're bringing it to your attention as the board, because we've kind of exhausted our level of effort on this.
You know, it's kind of my thought too, that we're doing our due diligence by doing this. And by saying, hey, please fix it, right? And like you said, at that point, it's out of our hands, but at least we did our part to those citizens in that area and saying, hey, we did pass the resolution, we sent it on. Maybe they can call the state then and ask them or something, right? Send emails to the OCR or whatever.
Yeah, and
Right.
several people have been doing that, and the OCR's response was, you got to get this body to do
Gotcha.
what they need to do before they go out there and
Oh,
look at
so
it.
that's what prompted this now too. So, okay, any other questions? See none, I need a motion in a second. Supervisor Vispalek, Supervisor Galitz, all approved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Item B, transit ridership report. That's early.
Alrighty. Any questions on the June ridership report for the shared ride taxi?
The only comment I had is they went up.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
From the previous month and the previous year.
Sure.
For June.
That's good. Does that help lower our per cost?
No, look
Not
at,
really much. I guess I mean, I see the overall for the year.
no, the hourly costs times about 8 to 10% each of the last 2 years.
Okay.
That's the rub.
Does anybody else have questions with regards to the ridership report?
I had a quick question. This is a very in general, how is Go Right Way? Has that transition been? And
They're doing great. They were able to retain a lot of the drivers and also the daily operations manager from our previous provider. So
Okay.
they kind of oversee they're the regional managers. They oversee the local manager for Go Right Way in West Bend
okay,
for the shared ride taxi. Yeah, they've been great, and the trips per build hour has gone up, so they've been increasing their
I saw that.
efficiency.
Yep.
My question to add to that, if I could, so they're working better with us, but have you had any more complaints from people? I know I believe we had complaints the last time, right? I know people would call in and say the taxi isn't coming quick enough.
Right.
Has it gotten better from the constituent standpoint or the users of the taxi service with the new provider?
I think so. There was some initial confusion because West Bend got a new provider. They used to have Go Right Way. They now have Running Inc., the city of West Bend.
Yeah, the city.
And
Sure.
then we had STS and now we have Go Right Way. So there was some confusion on, they thought Go Right Way was City of West Bend and some
Yeah,
complaints were going in the wrong location.
sure.
I think there's initial confusion there, but I have not noticed any increased complaints since then.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions on this?
I just wanted to say that I know in the past, my wife has needed to Washington County and she's had a hard time getting a taxi, but this week, because of the situation, she was able to get a ride real quick. She called on Monday for Tuesday and they were able to help her out, so I think that alone probably got to attribute to why it's up a little bit, because maybe they're scheduling it better or whatever they're doing, the new provider is actually providing better or whatever. I say she didn't have a problem. She called Monday for Tuesday. They went and picked her up and it was all set. We didn't have any problems. So I got to believe that that's part of the increase in the ridership just by managing it.
Okay. Yeah, that's great to hear. I'll definitely let the provider know.
Okay. Any other questions? Supervisor Gallitz?
Being new to this committee and this information, I know last meeting there was a comment that was made about potentially the future. So will this committee be asked to review pricing, fair pricing, or hours of operation? So I'm just trying to understand, this is data, but data for what?
Yes. Yeah, Scott, you want to add to that? I mean,
Yes.
yes to everything he said.
Yes,
this time.
I believe we may have mentioned this before, that the dollars that we've been getting for transit help offset to keep it like ARPA dollars are now going to be gone during next budget cycle. And so this committee and potentially the board will have some major decision points when it comes to shared ride taxi going forward. A couple of the options are certainly raising fares is an option. Reducing hours is an option. So we brought several of those options to the committee last time, and we settled on raising some fares a little bit, some fares, adult fares more, and reducing our hours. We kind of used a combination of all of those. So we do anticipate that coming back, and that is why you are seeing these every month, to kind of get a flavor for what are these rides being used for. And this report has been tweaked through the years as the committees change and committees have more questions. And so there's other stuff out there you can think of for data. We'd be happy to provide in your data for you. So the question was what are the people using the rides for? So that's why you see that on your report. Other questions in the past is, the cost per ride and how many are shared ride, actually true shared rides. So that's why a lot of the data, even the graphical to know, that's why you see on the second page of the graph going, well, how many rides were at 5 a.m.? How many rides are at 11? So that if you want to look at things going later on going, all right, we only service, maybe it makes more sense to end the service earlier, because during the 6 and 7 o'clock hour, you generally speaking have 4 to 5 per hour, or 4 to 5 per night. versus in the morning, you got 11, 10, and 11 in the morning. So that's part of the data that you see going, all right, does it, if we do squeeze the hours down somewhere, sometime, which hours should we reduce? Could be by day of the week as well. That's why we have the information that there's a lot of information in that spreadsheet and graph. We apologize for that, but I think getting all the information into you is so critical. We can see, well, how many rides are on the average Sunday during a month? How many rides are we doing early in the morning, late at night, during the day, work hours, that kind of stuff. So that's why you see that the graphical things, there's a lot more data in there than you might lead to versus just the major spreadsheets of ridership per month, giving you kind of a 3-year average, a percent change, and then how the fares. And again, a lot of the fares are self-determined. They to let us know what they're doing for if they're an adult agency fares. We know L disabled, but then where also are they going? The trip purpose, employment, medical, social, educational. And when we did the last increase, right, we dove into those numbers even further. And so for all those employment, medical, we actually had a map shown to the committee going, all right, when we say social, what does that mean? Right? Churches were high on the list, stuff like that. So, okay, they're not, we looked at that saying, or are they all going to taverns and out to dinner? And the answer was no, they really weren't using it for that purpose. So that's the kind of data that we have. We're able to give to you to say how to make those decisions later on. So that's why we are providing this now. If you don't want it on a monthly basis, certainly we don't need to, but we have it available. It's good to see, I think, every month, knowing that decisions are coming your way on shared ride taxi. I know there's some committee members that have gone through this once or twice already that's seen this data before and have requested changes, and we've always been able to accommodate those requested changes. But we do anticipate that we will be short of funding come the next budget cycle. It will be one of your decision points for budgeting.
You know, the one question I would add, and I know you got a lot of information on here already, but the 7 PM and 8 PM rides, maybe this came up once before. Do we know what those are for? I mean, at 7 or 8 at night, obviously it could be grocery stores. But is that the social time? You know, more of the social recreational rides? In other words, does it make sense for us to shut it down at 6 PM versus 7 or 8 since the ridership drops off so much? Maybe just knowing what those rides are for at that time frame. And I think we had that once before. I can't remember.
Right.
Yeah, we can drill down and get
Oh,
that
yeah, we can
information.
drill down that data. And you also remember that at the end of the night, right, we close at 9 PM. So they have to get back basically to West Bend by 9 PM. And
Okay,
so that limits it too, right? We try to more or less
Yep.
as best they can. So we say go to 9, that doesn't mean we drop them off in the town of Wayne at 9 PM, then head back, right? We try to get them, so the driver's back by 9,
By
the
9.
system's closed at 9.
sure.
That's why you'll see a lower number. If you slid that up, it would still be lower at the end.
Gotcha. And does the rest of the committee think that's a wise decision though, to look at the whys and whens and time frame? Go
When
ahead.
you get to that decision.
Right. So,
Me?
Yeah.
oh,
I guess
sorry.
what I was wondering, where it says individuals on the side, so that's a breakdown of, the actual amount of individuals that we are working with. Are those, do we know, are we tracking, like, are those the same individuals? Are we gaining individuals? You know, I guess going back to who's using it at 7
Mhm.
at 8 o'clock at night. Can we see, is that a consistently certain individuals, and maybe it is work, maybe they're it's an individual
Right.
that's continuously coming back from work that does work a later shift.
Right, retail or
And
whatever.
how many of those people are we talking about in those specific spaces?
Okay, yeah, I can definitely get that information for how many, riders at the individual times.
And repetitive, like, do we have a pattern on broken down per individual, like this, there's 10 people that are continuously, it's the same people that we're working with. I think it's just, it's worth the question when, when I hear what happened, how many individuals we were talking about at the Samaritan Home, right?
Right.
And what that meant. The question is, we have 629 individuals from June. Is it the same 552 from January that just stay in that bucket? Or are people,
New
I guess, like,
clientele.
yeah,
Yeah.
are they new? Are they repetitive? I guess that would be helpful too. if they're more one-offs and they're using our services as like an Uber service, that would be interesting to know versus who needs our services to get to the employment and the medical, versus, you know.
We had that discussion the last time we cut back as well.
Yeah, one of the
We
things,
wanted to make sure we weren't affecting the senior citizens
Correct.
and stuff like that.
yeah, one
And
thing
just-
we provided the committee was how many people used it I think it was 1 to 5 times that year. How many people used it then 6 to 11, I don't remember exact quantities, but then how many used it over that says basically using almost every weekday. So we gave that, we certainly can do that again. Yep, that's not a problem.
Awesome.
I would agree that understanding that usage, and I would even suggest that the Saturday and Sunday, because on the surface it says why provide it, the cost for that and how many, labor dollars and whatever for the handful of uses, and I'm not being dismissive, but unlikely medical, because doctor's offices are closed except for maybe urgent care, that need. So if we had to do this with, mind you, is separate with the Washington County Commuter Service, and we had to make an informed decision. Well, this committee is going to have to make an informed decision. Can we continue to operate as it is 7 days a week, or should it be pulled back? And if so, why? So if it were to be pulled back, just Monday through Friday to serve the lion's share of employment and then medical. Another question could be is, do we have partnerships with employers? Do they provide their employees flexible spending account arrangements for transit programs? Anything that can potentially or grants that they could receive from the state that could funnel to us. I'm just thinking aloud, and maybe you've already done all this in the past, but if 43% of the usage is for employment, which is a good thing. We want to encourage employment and support employers in Washington County, but should they also be helping that? Meaning, would they be interested in donating $5,000 a year because they have 35 employees that use it daily, for example? I'm just, when you have to make decisions, do you also look for a private partnership for programs like this? So without the data, you can't make the informed decision.
And just so you know, that has come up in the past as well. And I believe we talked to some employers and stuff like that and asked them about shuttles and stuff. I think it was also with the Washington County Commuter Express. We kind of went down that road at that time as well. And as far as your question on Sunday, I believe it was some of the elderly going to church, I think was most of the travel on Sunday.
Yeah, I'd have
Go
to
ahead.
double check that report.
Yeah, I think that if I remember correctly, and it may be different now, but back then it was, churchgoers. And we had that discussion with the county executive who says, yeah, I really don't I don't have interest in cutting that back right now. But once we review it again, if we see it diminish more, we could go back and revisit that, right? So, but that's what the Sunday rides were for the most part. So Saturday, I'm not sure. Could be the same thing, but not sure.
Yeah, we did do a weekend analysis of Saturday and Sunday of the cost for the riders, the cost for the county, the cost for state and federal grants broken down. Also, yeah, the trip purposes and then alternatives that people could use and what it would cost them. It was pretty high for private providers for weekend service, especially any disabled clientele.
Mhm.
Uber and Lyft don't have the disabled vehicles, so it'd be almost an ambulance that would have to take them, a medical transport.
But we've got your notes and Charlie's got them, and we'll make sure that next month's report addresses some of those issues.
That'd be great to see that and share with some of the new members here. Thank you. Any other questions on ridership? If not, thank you, Charlie. We'll move on to item C, lead laterals. And Scott, you want to bring us up to date on this one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Inside your report, the very first line there has our past reports. I included those dates in there for the new committee members if they want to orient themselves to our past reports on lead laterals. Lead laterals is one of the strategic priorities that the county board and county executive set forth several years ago. And so to date, we have replaced 196 public and private side lead laterals have been completed. There are still about 980 to go. We do have an online application. I will email everyone here what that link is, so you can go look at that. It's a mapping application. So if you want to zoom into anywhere in the county to look at which ones have been completed are green, the ones that have not completed are red, kind of the way we have it mapped out, so you can see which ones have been completed, which has not have been completed. When it comes to lead laterals, I'm going to back up a little bit. So obviously this is for water main systems. And so they are the lead laterals that are left in Washington County are in the city of West Bend and city of Hartford. We'll talk about the Kewaskum one in a little bit. The Village of Slinger, Village of Kewaskum have most of their lead laterals completed with the exception of like one in the Village of Kewaskum that they just recently discovered. And so the federal government has put aside some money for lead lateral replacement. They have to have lead laterals replaced by roughly 2034, I believe is the current deadline that the municipalities have to have them replaced. So underground, from the water pipe that's in the roadway, there's a pipe that goes from the water line in the roadway, the water main to the houses. That's called a lateral. And so that pipe that was put in probably prior to the 1950s or so sometimes contained lead. As you know, lead is a dangerous substance to have in your body, especially the body of younger individuals. We went through that with the board. The Health Department of Human Services did a nice presentation on that. Certainly can look that up from I think it was 2023 that we did that. And so it's imperative to get rid of those in the community. So we use some ARPA funds to help jumpstart this program. To actually start replacing those lead laterals within those cities and villages that I mentioned. Again, Slinger is now complete. Kewaskum is now completed. We rely on one. The city of Hartford years ago got a grant from the state of Wisconsin to actually replace all the private side lead laterals. So you got the pipe in the roadway. You basically have the back of the sidewalk. That's where your property starts and the right of way or the public property begins. And so that's the private side of a lateral. And so the city of Hartford got a grant. They did actually from like the back of the sidewalk to the homes in the city of Hartford. They were aggressive, got the grant and did that work. Great work to the city of Hartford and congratulations to them on that. Unfortunately, the city of West Bend did not get that grant. So the city of West Bend has both the public and private side remaining. With the bill funding that came through, so I'm down now in the 5th paragraph with the city of West Bend. There is a possibility they could apply to the state of Wisconsin for a loan using the bill money, the bipartisan infrastructure law money, and they could potentially get some principal forgiveness. So you apply for a loan for $100,000, up to 25% is potentially being forgiven, but you obviously still have the 75% that you still have to pay back. So again, not a full grant, just potential to have a principal forgiveness. You have to have a disadvantaged, that was done during, remember the BIL law was done during the Biden presidency, came to the state of Wisconsin, Governor Evers endorsed the Biden principles about the disadvantaged communities that would get this money first. And that is again, based on if you have to have a great financial need, low population, your population trend has to be going down. Our county unemployment rate goes in there and household income. So you throw all that stuff in together. When we contacted them several years ago, they laughed at us. And now they're like, yes, please apply, but it is competitive. So please apply. We want you to apply, but it is competitive and you might not get the full 25%. You might get something less than that or nothing at all. We work with the city of West Bend. We are hoping that they did apply by the end of June. We haven't had a lot of correspondence back from them since that point to verify that they have done that. But if they get the money and if it's the full 25% that they get forgiven, that is about $85,000 that they would potentially be forgiven out of the $340,000 price tag to do just the private side of those 68 lead laterals. That program also dissolves in 2027, next year. And this money is, what they apply now is for 2027. So it doesn't solve any problem beyond 27 unless the federal government, as part of their infrastructure funding, decides to extend the program. All right, so this is not a long-term solution. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that when I'm saying that. So when we're looking at that, certainly there is an issue there that hopefully will help out a little bit. But again, we're talking about The public side lead laterals about $1 million in the city of West Bend in 2027. You throw it all in there at about a $1.36 million range you'll be looking at for lead lateral replacements in 2027. So with that, the total funding that we utilized for 25, 26, I'm down in the cost paragraph now, was about $3 million to replace those 196 lead laterals based on a grant that was approved by the county executive and reviewed by the county board. And so very fortunate again that Slinger and Kewaskum were able to finish theirs up. But we obviously have an outstanding potentially bill coming for the remainder of municipalities. If you look in the bold in there for 2027, anywhere from 1.575 to $1.66 million. The total cost, if our grant was to keep in its current form, is just shy of $15 million to complete the lead laterals in the city of Hartford and city of West Bend out to the year 2031 to 2034, depending on municipalities. And I did include in the packet the lead lateral grant program that the committee has seen in the past to see where that money has gone, where the laterals have been replaced, as well as, and I want to give kudos to the city of West Bend and city of Hartford for having a long range plan to get to actually replace those lead laterals. So you'll see a couple of spreadsheets. The city of West Bend has theirs. I tabbed on some city of Hartford information, as well as then city of Hartford's get the whole another lead lateral, and that's why you only see the utility side or public side lead laterals when they're done in anticipated 2033. So a lot of information in your packet now, and hopefully you had a chance to review the information that was given to you before. And so as part of our strategy here at the county, we are looking at potentially, again, the county executive is working with the state to see if there's any other potential funding sources that could come from the state. So I would anticipate over the next several months, you'll see this policy decision coming back to you as far as a strategic priority and potentially funding sources as well to see, all right, is this still a priority for the county? If it is a priority for the county, how do we want to fund this program going forward? Do you want to start with funding 27? What does that look like? We'll also be providing you in August a look at our 6-year financial plan. So that'll be just a very small part of it, but just that we do take that into consideration as well. So that's a lot to unpack. I want to get back to Kewaskum and the one lead lateral that they just recently found as well. But any overall questions on the general grant program? And again, what we do is on the private side for the owner, instead of the homeowner coming up with $5,000, again, most of these places are somewhat disadvantaged in the city of West Bend. The county picks up that cost for the private side lead laterals. And the public side, we were paying $15,000 per lead lateral, which is more than the actual cost, about 3 times the actual cost, but then goes to help fix the roadways and maintains the roadways. As you can imagine, if you're replacing one lateral after another, now you have patch in the road, patch in the road, patch in the road, patch in the road. This allows them to fill the area in between those patches. So when they actually get done with the project, there's a nice smooth roadway to actually ride on there versus just patch after patch. That's how the grant program was conceived and how it's currently working right now.
Any questions from the committee? Supervisor McCulloch?
Scott, on page 13, with regard to the Hartford Water Utility and those projects, so we've got private and the utility side laterals. So for the utility side laterals, they list grant, and then there's the 2.865. Is that would that be from
Your
or
grant.
from the state?
That's your grant.
Okay.
There's the county grant.
So they don't have any states.
There is
so
no
the
state grant.
Didn't cover that.
The state will not cover any of it right now. Their current program is private side,
Got it.
up to 25% principal forgiveness, but 0.25% loan. So the water utility and the private side, the city could get a loan. They don't have any private side, but the city of West Bend could get a loan, a low interest loan at 0.25%. A lot of 0.25s floating around with the DNR on that, but that's how it would work.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Any other questions? Seem not, I'll.
And
Oh,
that was
sorry.
Kewaskum then.
Oh, yeah,
Village of
sorry.
Kewaskum, where we thought we had all the lead laterals done. They thought they had the lead laterals done. If you saw in the report, the village of Slinger went under, Kewaskum was going over. Are you willing to shift those dollars from one municipality to the other to help them finish? It might not need all $11,000, depending on if it's private and public. It doesn't cover the full doesn't cover the full grant amount, but would most likely more than cover the actual lead lateral replacement cost. So think about it, 5,000 on the public side, 5,000 on the private side, it's around $10,000 to replace it, give or take. So it would cover the cost of the lead lateral.
Okay. Supervisor Gallitz?
Just for clarification, I think you answered my question that this 11,000, if approved, would be shifted from one municipality to another out of the total grant amount.
Yes.
So I guess part of me is who's got the bigger hardship? You know, if you're talking about these millions of dollars elsewhere, so do we address one thing, settle that, and then move on to the bigger?
I mean, it's $11,000. It's a rounding error.
Yeah, I get that. So my point is, so move the money, get that done, that can get
Right.
knocked off the list, and
Correct.
then focus energies on, are there any other mysterious lead laterals?
You never know. I mean, they're both very confident. Slinger and Kiosk were both very confident they got them all, and this one popped up. So
Yep.
it just sometimes that happens. That they've said they were in every home business and stuff, looking and checking, and some stuff it pops up.
Give those folks a
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion.
Supervisor McCulloch, a second. Anybody?
Second, what are we?
For 11,000.
For the 11,000 for Kewaskum. Yeah. Are you still good with that?
Yeah.
Supervisor Vispalak is a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we move on to the master plan update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As reported in the committee, the building committee met on July 7th to get an update. The full reports for each of these brief summaries is included within the packet to the building committee. 3 of the members of the Public Works Committee happen to be on that building committee, so I don't want to rehash this for everybody, and that's why I did some summaries. So obviously, I'll just really cruise through those quickly. And if you have questions, I'll certainly be happy to answer those. But generally speaking, the outside elements are completed. If you haven't been outside on the east side of the building, those are completed except for the mulch that we got to put in alongside the building yet, which has been ordered and will be installed when it arrives. Our project schedule, we are still on completion. Again, they were supposed to be completed just before the end of the year. Now we're looking at completion near the end of the year with some final moves into 2027. So we've been working very hard on that. If you've had a chance to walk through the building, you'll see that the facilities and IT areas are completed. If you go down the end of the hallway here, I certainly can give tours if you'd like. They have the county clerk treasurer register of deeds. That's going to be down here. It's painted. The ceiling grid is in. Now the tiles aren't in yet, but the grid is in. The lights are put installed. So we're looking really good for that to be done. Right above that is community development at the end, again, the east end of this wing. That the drywall is up and the drywall is mudded. So they're kind of following their area right through those areas. If you've been up on the 3rd floor, they started demoing already the county board chairs office that's going to be installed up there. So that process is all going on right now, as well as there are areas where they're not getting remodeled. A lot of the areas are getting new carpeting, as well as paint, as well as new lighting, LED lighting. And so we're starting to move those areas. So for instance, Mike's office and Jeff are now actually downstairs while they're working upstairs in that general suite. And soon enough, the county executive is going to move. HR is going to be moving. So we got a lot of moving parts that are going around over the course of the next several months. We really appreciate everybody's patience and flexibility in this time frame, because even impacts the DA's office and the clerk of courts, which we don't talk about a lot, but it'll impact their offices and moving them up. And you can imagine removing lifting up furniture in the office and removing the carpeting and then actually changing the lights in there, right? It's a pretty inconvenience where you got to be out of the office for several weeks while they do that, because you can't do it just one office because the way the lights are. You know, when you're doing electrical work, you want to turn the breaker off, and that you can't do it, that way. So in carpeting, you want to match up down a hallway. So change orders, which we went through with the building committee. Again, we have total approximately 670,000. A lot of those change orders were for the actual communications and badge system in the building, security modifications that were made. Obviously, we had some unforeseen electrical, mechanical, and fire protection issues with a 60+ old building that's built very solidly, but very solid means concrete. And so that can create challenges for us. And that committee also was aware of asbestos that we found, and we actually did some advanced testing. So if you do go in some of those departments, you see some red duct tape on the floor. That's because they pulled up the carpeting and actually had to test the glue and the mastic that was down below that for asbestos. So you'll see that throughout the building as well. And it's good time to, instead of just, again, going over the top of it, basically painting over it, to actually remove it, get it abated, and it's done and out of the building forever. So that caused a little bit of delays, but we're kind of more or less back on schedule. The budget, we're tracking to use up most of the funds that were allotted for the project. We got a remaining contingency that's unaccounted for, about $167,000 of a roughly $8 million project. So we're trending that we think that's going to be pretty close, but we think that's going to be enough to cover any unforeseen change orders coming up that we're doing. Last piece of the puzzle, exterior signage. So you'll start to see some new signage coming outside. That was about $100,000 price tag, 102 and some change to be exact. So you see some new monument signs and new signage. If you haven't looked at our signage up there, it's still got our old logo on it, most of it. So you have that, plus also redirecting everybody to this side, the east side of the building. We need new signage for that as well, and potentially the new Human Services building, which also could be on the east side of the building if that's what the county board chooses to do later on. So it's a lot packed into a couple minutes, but again, three of you have seen a lot of this in greater detail, and that those other individual reports are out there for everybody to view.
So I do have a couple quick questions. When do you think the people start using that entrance? Is that at the very end of the project?
No,
or is that
that'll
gonna
be
start-
roughly September 7th or so. We'll
when
be
they
doing
should
some
start using it?
communication on that. We actually are working with our GIS and address changes already. Once the clerk, registered deeds and treasurer move down there, that is going to be
The sign.
where they go, correct?
Okay.
Now, they can still get through this way to the other way, right? So we're not gonna like shut them down that day, right? If they still come in the west side because of the doors that are in between, we're trying to, like the doors that are gonna be out here in the middle of the hallway right here, we're not putting them on because of construction purposes, because their crews need to get from one side to the other. We don't need them banging and damaging our brand new doors. So we're gonna have the public coming in that side, but they can still go through this middle section until the project is mostly done,
Mostly
probably.
done. So that door won't be locked and we won't have to worry about getting in with our key cards until the very, very end of the project.
That is our current plan
Yeah.
right now, is that
Okay.
it's just easier for our contractor to move from one side of the building without going through another set of doors and potentially damaging
Yep.
brand new doors.
Sounds good. Does
So
Supervisor Gallitz?
If you'll allow me, since we're talking about that entrance, I know there have been discussions back and forth about whether that east end, everybody will go through security. I believe we resolved that because there's also potential budget impact. So will that ultimately be communicated to the public of who will have to go through security and who won't?
yeah, we'll have, as I think you might recall, we're gonna put signs out in the parking lot as well for that, which is gonna be a little bit misleading because we're gonna say in there, if you're entering the Justice Center, you'll have to go through security. If you're in the government, so you don't. Some people, when they walk up, they don't know where they're going. I'll just be honest with you, right? That they got county clerk and clerk of courts, and that's part of the reason too, is they can come in, there'll be deputies there to help direct them to not go to the wrong location. We'll do our best to communicate that, but if you communicate out, if you're going to the county clerk, you don't have to go through security, but if you go to the clerk of courts, you have to go through security, and they don't do it for 3 or 4 months, they most likely won't remember which one they have to do or not. So we're gonna do our best to promote that, but until they get in the building, they're gonna have to realize that. So hopefully that one, like to do juries, call people in for juries, that they would put that in there. You gotta go through security for you to be a jurist. I hope everybody knows when they're going to court, they gotta go through security. So it's kind of on them to help promote their side of it, that people are coming in to visit them are going through security. So I don't know if we're gonna actively promote going, hey, come on in, you don't have to go through security. I don't think we're gonna do that. I think just more or less the signs out in the parking lot and come on in.
Yeah, I wonder if those respective departments on their public facing website, Washington County, they may want to make mention of that.
I guess there'll be a learning curve and we'll see how it goes.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions regarding the master plan? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the broadband update.
Yes,
this- This has been going on for years now, hasn't it?
yes, I mean, this could very well be the last update.
Okay.
So the report that you're seeing here is, everything below the first sentence under policy question is exactly the same information that was provided to this committee back on March 19th of this year. So it was decided to give this committee, because of the new members, a little, just an update on what broadband is looking like in Washington County. But that report is literally the same exact report that was given back in March. And what it basically alludes to is that between the funding that was completed already, and we did a white paper that's in your report, and the funding that's coming, everybody in Washington County should have access to broadband. Now, they might not be able to afford it. It might be in the roadway in front of them, but their house is a quarter mile back, and it's going to cost them a pretty penny to get it back to their house. But everybody should have it available in the roadway up. Now, there are several red dots on that map. And again, some of those projects are not yet completed. But if you look at the two last maps, basically it's the red dots that are the PSC considers that are unserved locations in Washington County. When GIS and I zoomed in on those, it's amazing that there might be a green dot on one side, a green dot on the other side, and there's a red dot, and the house right in the middle going, why is that a red dot? I also want to emphasize, this is data coming from the PSC. Scott and Washington County did not go out there and do a survey on every resident to see what was available or not in front of their homes. So with that, it's PSC data that is saying that between the projects that are coming, which is like RDOF, Rural Digital Opportunity Fund locations, the BEAD grant that's out there, the light blue and the cream colored on there, that those are still in the works coming to those areas. If you've been out in Washington County, and I know you all have, you've probably seen them working along the side of the roadway, putting in fiber in the ground, and that's what most of this is fiber in the ground. But there is also other opportunities out there. You may have heard of like Starlink. That's out there if you're in a more rural area. That's an opportunity that's out there as well. That's not represented on the map, but they've come a long way in the 7 years or so we've been working with broadband in Washington County. So that's also an option to the residents. And
I
this is
just wanted to say, Scott, isn't this all so anachronistic given, I mean, I use Starlink and it's a sensational product and
Yes.
not very expensive. And like the whole, so I understand that for some businesses you need, T1 lines and things like that, that there's hard data lines, but for residential, I mean, this isn't a thing anymore. I almost looked at this and I was like, wow, 2021, we spent all this time on this and 5 years later, it's not remotely an issue.
right. That was one thing the white paper too, is like, we think this is going to solve itself. Right. Or we didn't need to, the county didn't need to spend money on it because we figured it would solve itself. And
No, I
it
understand,
did. But this is being presented to you now because of, again, you are going to be reviewing the strategic priorities over the next 6 months. That was one of the past priorities that this board had. And so now you can, when you go into that room, you can go, that's no longer a priority for us because it's mostly solved. And even the town of Erin used a lot of their ARPA funds, and you'll see that most of the red dots lie in the town of Erin. And they did a fantastic job of making sure they get their house. So we're really surprised to see any red dots in Erin. It was kind of shocking, but again, a lot of those red dots you can see are very close to a green dot where it does have broadband service. And that's again fiber or 25 and 100, high-end copper in the roadway.
Yeah.
But I agree, Starlink.
Yeah,
Again, I've got several of my employees that have it, and I've never heard of
I've used
recently
it
a
for some
negative.
remote things. I can tell you a number of my customers, the folks that'll be at the county fair next week, almost all of them use Starlink for that. And it is, and I don't have any stock. It is a fantastic product and it is very affordable. It's a great product. So I mean, like, nah, this isn't even.
This is a non-issue. Yeah, and a solution finding a problem.
Right.
Problem solved.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mr.
and that was just 2021. Wow.
Excuse me, Mr. Schmidt, you had mentioned the fiber optics. I know there's been a lot being run in residential and business, and I think business is the first priority to get those laid and hooked up. If someone has fiber optic, as you described, laid down in the front of their house, how can they get access to that?
Pay for it.
I know that, but which service provider? So is there any information? So not that I've had any constituents ask me, but
Right.
they have asked me, say, hey, we're doing all this digging in the in the roadway. It's like, oh, it's fiber optic.
Right.
Oh, how can I get that?
Generally speaking, what happens is whoever puts it in the ground sends out flyers to those people that just went by their house.
Yeah,
So
AT&T's been good at that.
we have tried diligently to try to get their maps from them to map it out. They do not want to provide their maps about where they are and where they're going. It's
If you
very
call Diggers
proprietary.
Hotline, they'll let you know if it's in your front yard though.
Yes, yes,
Right?
yes, yes. So we rely on the entity, whether it's Frontier, AT&T, Spectrum, Charter, that they would, when they're going by, send those flyers to those people and saying, you want service, we're here now.
Right. Any other questions on the broadband update? Seeing none, the next meeting, August 20th, 2026 at 3 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.